we're really trying to solve for the problem of awareness. What do rhythms look like for this 100,000 views system?
I was at about 100,000 views with my podcast at 6 months. And then now I'm at 9 months and almost 250,000 views. As you go through the process, your growth curve, assuming you are continuing to follow these 3 points that we just talked about, will continue to grow exponentially to the point that you can actually start to recognize, oh, wow, that last episode just had 15,000 views on it. That's crazy. What just happened?
It's not the best content that wins. It's the best promoted content that wins. Because people are busy, they will choose when and how to interact with your stuff. Mark Zuckerberg, this is an official appeal on behalf of the podcaster community. What are the things you do to grow your brand? Join me as we take a look at how the best in the business build authority and create true fans through video podcasting. I'm Josh Lewis, and this is Grow Your Podcast, produced by the Cincinnati Podcast Studio. We're really trying to hone in on the results of podcasting and not just having a podcast to have a podcast, but like we really want to be results driven. I really just want to talk about the process that I guess, for lack of a better term, our 100,000 views process that we've kind of come up with. And it's been really cool, especially you've been diving into a bunch of the numbers and I've been doing that as well. Podcasting is such a great tool for a whole lot of things. But with this, like if we're really trying to solve for the problem of awareness, right? And so let's talk about that process that especially you've been really honing. Some of the stuff we've done intentionally, some of it we haven't. Yeah. But let's before we even get started though, I do want to plug something. Having a podcast, like having this is great, but sometimes you have a really hard time just understanding, is my idea any good, right? You have an idea for a podcast. Is it any good? Well, we happen to have a free tool on our website. If you go to CincinnatiPodcastStudio.com, the top of the website, there's test your podcast idea. You can plug in your name, your email, and a little description about your podcast. And within like 10 minutes, you'll get this free research evaluation report that goes through a whole bunch of different things.
The cool thing that we did with that was we specifically tried to give a couple things. One, like, is the idea any good?
Yeah.
What are some competitors that already exist in the space?
Yeah.
And then also a lot of just ideas for what it is that these people, like, you may need to know when you're building your podcast. So like, here's like 10 ideas for how to do it. And here's some angles you should put on it to try and make it a little bit more interesting.
Yeah.
And so we think it's a really cool tool, especially that it's free. So if you want to try it out, it's on our website, CincinnatiPodcastStudio.com, and just type in your ideas, see what you get. I think you're going to like it.
Yeah, it's super awesome. And I know a lot of people have already gotten a lot of value from it. So, but let's talk about, I've kind of broken this up into sort of 3 different buckets where we have rhythms, platforms or promotion, and then evaluate and iterate. So
do you mind if I give some context though first?
Yeah, let's do it.
So one of the things that we talk about here is the idea of 100,000 views is like is kind of a guarantee inside of our space. Not exactly. We're working on making it one. But the reason we say that is because this show is now 4 months old.
Yep.
And it just passed 105,000 views across all platforms.
Yep.
So that's on TikTok, that's on Instagram, that's on YouTube Shorts, all that sort of stuff. 105,000 views. That is amazing.
And that's not so including fast. LinkedIn, correct?
It's not including LinkedIn. So no impressions in LinkedIn.
Yep.
And it's not including even your Spotify numbers. Like these are just social platforms that have 100,000 views.
Yeah.
And when we talk about the idea of awareness, social media is where awareness lives right now.
Yeah.
Like pretty much everyone's on social media. And so if you can get high number of views, the higher likelihood someone is to recognize that they want to work with you.
Yeah.
And then just to give another perspective, my show, the Cincinnati Business Podcast, is about 9 months in right now. And we're just about to pass 250,000 views. So like the process of, and I'm nowhere near the regularity of your show.
Right.
Posting daily. I'm not posting daily. I post like every other day. I have an episode every 2 to 3 weeks. And, but there's just been this momentum that builds as the algorithms start to learn more about what we do with our shows.
Yep.
That builds to this point that you hit 100,000 views on your channels, no problem.
Yeah.
And it's pretty surprising.
Yeah. And yeah, I just think it's crazy that, you know, like you said, so for your show, it's not like you've been crazy consistent. You were really consistent for the first little bit. So it's like there's even some, you know, it's not even necessarily you have to be posting every week.
Mm-mm.
It's just you have to be posting. You have to be posting
Yeah.
at least with some sort of regularity for a while, and then just making sure that you're kind of really honing on your niche, which I think we can talk about in a little bit with how you've sort of adjusted your show. But I think a part of this too is outside of there's been a few people on my show that, you know, we've had people like Caleb Ralston, or Tom Brown from Chicago Podcast Studio, or some of these other people. And for you've had local Cincinnati people, business owners. And, so it's not like you have to have these insane guests in order to actually get the views that we're talking about.
No, well, the thing that we were surprised about is when you had Caleb Ralston on your show, like the amount of views that you got on that content was not very high. It was higher.
It was really high on the long form content.
Yes.
That outsurpassed everything I did. But if we're talking shorts views, it wasn't necessarily any more than normal, right? Yeah, exactly.
So I think the big thing that we're kind of learning across everything, while there are kind of these tools and these steps that we're going to talk through, consistency is kind of the biggest one.
Yeah.
And kind of, as we're going to talk about a little bit later, like quality over quantity sometimes reigns supreme in the social media algorithms.
Exactly. So yeah, let's talk about rhythms. You know, there's a John Maxwell quote: small disciplines repeated over consistency every day lead to achievement gained slowly over time. And so, you know, if we're talking about the rhythms of posting for kind of the process we're developing intentionally, what do rhythms look like for this 100,000 views system?
Yeah. Well, so one of the things that we talk about is like, everyone talks about this thing called the algorithm, and no one quite understands what it is. And what I've kind of defined the algorithm to be is it's just a computer program that seems to understand what people like and what they don't like. And then the rest is just people.
Yep.
So when I say that, it's like, when some people say, oh, the algorithm really didn't pick this video up when I was posting it or whatever, like that piece is actually meaning like, hey, your first couple views that may have happened on this video, people didn't stick around because they weren't interested in it.
Yep.
So then the algorithm said, oh, well, no one's interested in this. They're swiping away right away. They're not paying attention to it. And so they leave.
Yep.
And so I think it's important to recognize that when we're talking about this idea of algorithms, like that's what this is.
Yeah.
So when we talk about consistency, we really need to talk about the idea that consistency is not about posting times. It's not about making sure that you post when your audience is there, or when you have to figure out that enigma that may be out there, whatever. It's about doing the same thing every day. And even if the content's not the best every single day, the more that you keep going at the same time every time, most people in the world have habits.
Yeah.
Like, you may not be a rigid, structured person, but the habit that you may have is you wake up, you unplug your phone, and you take a look at it for a little bit. So maybe if you post at the time when that person is looking every day, they are part of your algorithm and they are helping to blow up your content.
Yeah. Well, and even too, with the algorithms, I mean, like, I don't know, on LinkedIn, for example, because I was talking with somebody about this recently where, you know, I was walking her through like how often to post. And she was like, well, I just really want to make sure that like, you know, when I post, like it's impactful and people watch and listen. And I'm like, that is awesome. And that's not how the algorithms work, because right now, when I go to my LinkedIn, actually, and it even depends on what device I'm on. I've noticed on my iPad, it's different than my phone and it's different than my computer.
Interesting. I didn't notice that.
Exactly. It's weird. But I'm seeing stuff for the first time that says it was posted 3 weeks ago.
Yes. I see that all the time. Yeah.
3 weeks.
Yeah.
2 weeks. Like, so to be, it used to, I guess, sort of matter that you post at this exact same time, same bat channel, right? In order to make sure that people saw it and the right people saw it at right time zone, all these different things. But that's literally not how it works anymore, because honestly, there's also so much content. People are swiping and scrolling.
Yes.
There's, instead of just the people they follow, it's the recommended people.
Yes, the For You pages.
Exactly. And so it doesn't really matter what time you post things. You could actually batch upload a bunch of stuff. I probably wouldn't recommend it, because there is something
it doesn't
that
work
is
super
helpful
well.
to be able to like be posting every day, but like not everybody is going to see your stuff, and that is okay.
Yep.
Because there's just a lot of content out there and the algorithm will not feed it that. But
there's some people that we're talking with nowadays who are actually talking about what if they ran 3 TikTok channels with the exact same content being posted at just separate times of the day.
Yes.
And then because nowadays it's not based on follower counts.
Right.
Like while follower counts do matter, follower counts usually only matter when you get past a couple hours past posted.
Yep.
Because that's when your regular viewers may come back and see it and it'll pop up in their feed.
Yep.
But the majority of new traffic will happen at random times, usually right within the first couple hours of you posting.
Yeah.
And so as long as you have that consistent rhythm, then the algorithm starts to understand, okay, this person watched X number of seconds of this piece last time. I'm going to recommend it again to them because it seemed like they were interested.
Yeah, exactly. And with what Brian was talking about, the multiple accounts, just don't try that on YouTube, because they will penalize you. There's new rules. Everybody thought this was like a rule about AI generated content. It's actually about repurposed content.
Yeah.
And so they're really trying to crack down on some of those things with repurposed content, or duplicate content, maybe the phrase they use. So just make sure you don't do that on YouTube. But some of these other platforms like TikTok, you could really help boost views, and just like, because I mean, I do this. I will follow, Alex Hermosi, right? And then I get a whole bunch of content about Alex Hermosi from accounts that are not Alex Hermosi,
it's
right?
Crazy.
And there are strategies where sometimes people are taking that content and posting it as their own, but sometimes it's the same person. They just have kind of like dummy accounts that they're like posting. So that's really good. Posting daily is huge. To be consistently feeding the beast, right, is very important. And because the algorithm is trained. So to be able to train it to say, here's the kind of content I post, here's the subject, and then it, like you said, it will show it to people, and then it will evaluate, is this actually working for them?
Yeah.
Titles matter with that, because while the algorithm will while the platform will kind of look through the content to see if this is relevant to the people they want to show it to, titles will also matter with this. And so it's kind of like the whole package. You have to give the whole package, And if that package is rejected, it's probably because your title doesn't work. Maybe the editing wasn't as great, that kind of a thing.
Yeah, I think that the way that it is good to kind of think about is the shorts that I've had, or even the episodes that I've had that have gone really, really well with my show, usually have a really catchy like question attached to the very beginning of it.
Yep.
Something that like either
Sparks
text on
curiosity.
screen
Yep.
or in the description is like, oh, hey, this is interesting. Combined with kind of like, for lack of a better word, like SEO style content.
Yep.
That really just tries to let people know that if you think about X, Y, or Z, you're the one that would probably find interest in this thing. The same way that you get a bunch of shorts for Hermosi from all these other channels, the same thing with this. So if I, like one of my best performing shorts that I have was actually a business advisor who helps sell businesses.
Yep.
And I think the question on the short was, how do you sell a business well, or something like that? And of course, everybody's really curious about that because generally most people aren't in the position to own a company, much less sell it.
Right.
So it's a really interesting question for those who are in the world of business to try and understand.
Yeah.
And then he delivered a lot of value in that clip. So then it got a ton of views on it.
Yeah.
So I think it's really just this idea of consistency for the algorithm, and then consistency for the sake of the person who's normally at that time of day going to be watching, and then you build your audience from there.
Yeah, exactly. So then let's talk about platforms. Okay. So, or broadcasting. So,
Can I roast the one that you shouldn't do it on right now?
What?
Facebook.
Oh my god.
You shouldn't be on Facebook.
Oh no.
Okay. It's not true. It's not true. Facebook is
But it kind of is.
Facebook is great if you already have an audience, but organic Facebook video sucks right now. It
really does.
horrible. And like I was running all of our numbers, like okay, for mine, I had something like 25,000 views on TikTok or something like that. And I have done nothing with that community. I've just posted there. I looked on Facebook over the same period of time, maybe 400 views. Like organic on there is horrible.
Mark Zuckerberg, this is an official appeal on behalf of the podcaster community. Please do something about this. I remember Mr. Beast on So Mark Zuckerberg was on Colin and Samir, and they like brought on Jimmy to
Mr. Beast,
like, Mr. Beast to
Oh.
like talk, and he was like really kind of taking Mark Zuckerberg to task and just calling him out on like, why is this so bad?
Yeah.
Like, I would really love to actually pay attention to this platform,
Yeah.
but it's so bad.
Yeah.
So anyways, yes, you're 100% right. But, you know, one of the things that, you know, again, I follow all these different people. Gary Vee gets asked regularly, should I post on this platform or this platform? And his answer is always yes and. The idea is you want your content to be everywhere. And it like even if there's like some B2B businesses that I think I'm thinking of that could push back on posting to TikTok, right? And the argument I would make is, yeah, but I'm sure that a lot of your potential clients are actually on TikTok, even if they're not doing it for business, right? We think LinkedIn is for business and TikTok is not. Like, it actually, you'd be surprised at what you can get and the brand recognition you could get if you would just be willing to give some of these platforms a chance.
Well, and I think the big thing is I'm not seeing algorithms today actually penalizing the way that they used to when you used automatic scheduling tools.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Exactly.
it used to be a bigger deal where they would be like, no, you need to post in our platform and then you'll get a little boost. I'm not seeing that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of the things that you and I did when we were testing out how we were posting on all the platforms and stuff is we recognized, like we were thinking, okay, YouTube, we need to post individually there because they seem to be really big about post using their platform and then post. And then we started checking things out and that didn't seem, the numbers didn't line up. We'd still get high views over here, not super high views over here. And it wasn't really like making a huge difference. So one of the things that I say then is if we can use a tool like a buffer or Sprout Social or something like that to post our clips to every single platform that exists, why not do it? You don't have to manage it on all those other platforms if that's not where you think your audience is, but it might surprise you.
Right.
Because it surprised us how sometimes our clips will pop off on TikTok when we're like talking about business stuff.
Yeah.
Like, why?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then boom, you got this big following of people that are paying attention to you, and you were wrong about where your audience was.
Exactly. That's
So every single platform.
Yep. Yeah. It is. Yeah. Don't count things out just because you're a B2B business or whatever. That's really important. I saw this other quote too, by Andy Crestonita, Dina.
Sorry, Andy.
So sorry for butchering that, but I actually had never heard of him before. I was looking up some things, but the quote was, "It's not the best content that wins; it's the best promoted content that wins." And you can post the content. You can post a long form video, but that's not enough. You do have to be posting it not only on Spotify for creators, but make sure Apple Podcasts is a part of that. Make sure you're posting it on YouTube. Break that sucker up into clips and make sure, like we were just saying, post it to all the different social platforms, because and then try an email newsletter, try a LinkedIn newsletter.
Yes. Okay. Can I, one thing about email newsletters. So especially if you're in the world of business, email newsletters are surprisingly underrated. So, for example, we had a author in our studio. He did a book launch and he did a podcast around that book launch. First off, his clips they did amazingly well on YouTube. I was super surprised. His podcast got 300, 400, 500 views a podcast, not a ton. But because he put that podcast in his email newsletter and was engaging his audience in another way outside of the email newsletter, that book launched #1 new bestseller on Amazon, #1 bestseller in the category for a while. And it was because he recognized the power of having direct to their target market access via an email newsletter. People don't think about that, but it's crazy valuable.
It is. And people have to be reminded, you have to show up in multiple different ways. And like, I can't tell you the amount of times I've maybe seen some of the clips and then, maybe seen something over here. And then, now I'm getting this email newsletter. You know what? This actually does sound interesting. I'll check it out. The amount of times that has happened to me is crazy. And so I think you just you have to realize, I get it. You put so much effort into your content, but people are busy. And that's why to promote your podcast and to show up in all these different ways is so important, because people are busy, they will choose when and how to interact with your stuff. And if you can kind of show up in different mediums, you can interact with them on their terms, but you're still interacting with them.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing. Everyone seems to think if you want business, you post on LinkedIn. If you want to get the young people's attention, go on TikTok. If you want to hang out with the 30-year-olds, go to Instagram. And if you want the 50 to 60, go to Facebook. It's not really true. I think that those lines are way too blurred now. It all happens in a whole bunch of places. It was really funny. The other day I was texting my wife's family group chat, and we were talking about, you can just use this email address and do da-da-da. And like the young cousins were like, "You have an email address?" And I'm like, whew, okay, hold on.
Right.
But it's so true. Every single one of your people may be in a different place. And I think there are stories out there, and I cannot for the life of me remember what it is, but the amount of times that I've heard of stories of someone's a CEO, their kid mentions something cool to them, and then a really cool brand collaboration happens because that kid was a fan of the person that was doing something. that would have never happened otherwise.
Exactly.
And so for me, I say increase your chances if the effort is not that much more.
Yeah.
If you can spend $20, $30 a month on some sort of social media posting platform that you can schedule out all your content, it goes to every single location, and then you just do an email newsletter on top of that, which you can use ChatGPT to write. It can help you do it. Then you hit pretty much every single platform outside of print media, which doesn't really work for podcasting.
Right.
That will allow you to grow your podcast to a whole nother level.
Yes, I love it. All right, so the kind of final bucket to talk about is evaluate and iterate. And I saw this super dope quote from Winston Churchill. To improve is to change. To be perfect is to change often. And I just thought that was so helpful in terms of thinking about this idea of, okay, so, you have to evaluate in order to know where to change. But like regularly tweaking, making little adjustments along the way really will help your just the way you come across on camera. Like I was talking with you earlier about some things I'm intentionally trying to change specifically on this episode about the way I perform on camera, because I've been noticing some things that as I've been evaluating the episode, I'm like, I need to do that a little bit differently. How can I do that? Mm-hmm. Okay, well, what if I did X, Y, and Z? That will help me come across a little bit better and ultimately giving more value to the audience. And that's really the whole point.
The interesting thing that I feel like we always talk about is that we're always going to be our own worst critic.
Yeah.
Right? Unless if you're maybe a narcissist or something, right. I apologize to the narcissists out there, but you will always dislike the sound of your voice on a podcast.
For sure.
Like you're always going to think, oh, I could have done this better. I could have done that better. And really, honestly, that's a superpower. Your superpower to be able to say, I could have done that better is the best way that you will ever improve your podcast.
Yeah.
I had to do the same thing. When I hit about the 4 or 5 month mark, I was looking back at my episodes and I was like, I was not doing this correctly. What I thought I was doing was not bringing the value that my audience needed. Mm. And so when I shifted that perspective, all of a sudden, I know part of it was the length of time the podcast had been existing, but all of a sudden the view count started going up. The comments started rolling in. The engagement with other people started rolling in. The amount of people who wanted to be on the show started to increase. And so our ability to be able to go back, rewatch episodes, tell ourselves, man, that wasn't great. Tell ourselves, actually, that was awesome. I need to make sure I do that next time.
Yes.
Doing all of those things will catapult you to a whole nother level.
Yeah, that's huge. Yeah, I think you made a really good point. It is very important not to just make constructive criticism, like here's where I can do better. It's also really important to say, what are you doing well, and double down on that. Keep doing that thing. Do not lose that. Mm-hmm. Because if all you do is say, here's where I need to improve, well, honestly, that's going to make podcasting kind of frustrating. Like it's not going to let you kind of be the best version of yourself on camera, because you're always going to be thinking about the things you do wrong instead of also just being yourself. You are not for everybody, but you are for somebody. And so the reason why we love this medium, and we had a few studio tours today, and part of one of the things we were talking to them about was just like why we love the medium. And part of it is we just like showcasing people. Mm-hmm. People are different. You and I have different personalities, different speech patterns, all these different things. And some people are going to like the way you say things better. Some people are going to like the way I say things better. Like, the goal isn't to be appealing to everybody necessarily. It is just show up as you. That should be a selling point.
Well, I think it was it Cody on Diary
Sanchez?
of a CEO?
Yeah, Cody Sanchez. Yeah.
I said this on the last episode. I want to say it again. She basically talks about the idea that there need to be these moments when you are so authentically you that you actually scare away some of your audience.
Yeah.
Because the people who stay are the ones who are invested in your success.
Yep.
So the more that you can do things that you just know are you, the better your show will be in the long run. So they were talking about guys like the Ryan Trahans of the world and how they go out and do these things that, like, I look back at Ryan Trahan 5-6 years ago, unwatchable.
Yeah.
Compared to what it is today.
Right.
Like, I love him for what he does now.
Yeah.
Not for the things that he did 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And so what has been really interesting is as he talks about his journey, he says, he just wanted to be more himself throughout the whole thing. He wanted to be less of a YouTuber, more of things that he found interesting and more of the common man. And so I think the same thing needs to happen with our podcasts. We need to be ourselves. When we look at politics, you look at how the last election was defined by the people who went on politics. Pretty much
Podcasts.
On podcasts. Ooh, let me say that one more time. The last election was defined by the people who went on podcasts. Yeah. When all the podcasts were happening with the presidential candidates from the last go round, they all happened within the last 3 months of the campaign.
Yeah.
And one of the things that they really noticed when everyone sat down was that the moment you would get past 30 minutes, an hour, into an hour and a half, 2 hours, 3 hours of a conversation with this candidate, there's no hiding who these people are.
Right.
You can't hide who you are on a podcast.
Yeah.
And so the more you try to hide, the more the audience recognizes, hey, this guy's a fake.
Yeah.
Like, this doesn't make any sense.
I always say people have a really high BS meter. And so it's you just can't, it's not helpful even to hide or try to be somebody you're not.
Mm-mm.
There's enough, like, create an AI avatar if that's the way you want to go. But like it's really important that you just show up as you. So we say all this as we're talking about this whole evaluate and iterate, to really just emphasize, don't only think about the negative things, but yes, think about the positive things. What are some other, I have one specific example I'm going to use, but like, what are some other ways that you think people should be evaluating and then maybe tweaking or iterating on their podcast? Maybe different categories of things to be thinking about with their podcast.
Well, there's a lot of different things that people could be thinking about, but I think there's one thing that's important to think about when it comes to iteration is the world of Joe Rogan style podcasts don't really exist anymore. At least you're not going to be able to grow that way, because Joe Rogan is the most general podcast in the world, that he just talks about whatever is on their mind that day. And people don't want another one of those. They don't sign up for another one of those.
I would actually argue that the only reason he can get away with it is because of having a previous audience.
100% true.
Yeah.
But like the reason I say that is because when you do podcasting, the biggest problem that a lot of people do when they first start a show is that they don't niche down enough.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's what happened with me, is I was very general with everything that I did when I first started my podcast. Yeah. So I said, okay, how do I niche down so that my audience becomes more valuable to me, my content becomes more valuable to them, and they feel more loyal because they know what to expect every single time.
Yes.
So I think a lot of podcasts, as they're learning to iterate, they need to say, am I still being too general? Am I not focused enough on the concept that I'm delivering? And what should be the focused concept that should be happening from my show so that people know what to expect every single time?
That's great. Yeah. And I mean, I think you can give yourself a little bit of grace in, just starting and then do exactly what you did. Okay. At a certain point, kind of take a gut check, feel like, all right, is this actually doing what I want it to do? Am I providing the kind of value that I want to for my audience? What even is the value for my audience? I'm not providing it. Okay, how can I do that? So I really think, as you know, the person back there recording, when you do your podcast, I I have enjoyed the episodes more because of the focus that you've brought. It just feels like I know basically I'm going to learn something as a business owner. And so shout out Cincinnati Business Podcast. You should check out the links in the description. But yeah, that's really big. I think another thing to evaluate is just your guest strategy. So we've talked about this before, but Caleb Ralston said that branding is the intentional pairing of things. And so if you are bringing people onto your show, it's really important that you make sure that they are really helping you with the brand you're trying to build. Whether it's you're trying to build a personal brand or your business's brand, are these people actually going to help you in that? Now, you can check out this podcast in the description where we specifically talk about some more things around guest strategy, but just as a whole, are these guests actually delivering for you in the way that you need them to? And if not, maybe change up who you're bringing on. Don't just bring on friends because you're comfortable with them, but maybe try to aim a little higher. And, there's a bunch of different ways you can think about it. And we talked about it on the last podcast episode, so I don't want to rehash everything, but I think that's a huge thing.
Well, here's a bonus thought about guest strategy too, because if you're a business and you're running a podcast, part of the strategy is that you are potentially selling to the person who is going to be a guest.
Potentially, yeah.
In that other seat. I mean, I think I at one point did the math. This was a while ago, so the numbers aren't accurate now. But I think we closed 40% of the people who came onto my show at one point.
Right.
And they at least did some sort of business with us. And so in my head, one of the things that's really hard to do if you are in that space where the people sitting across from you are your prospect, you would be willing to settle for less than competent guests. And I think that is a real danger when you are looking at trying to build an audience and grow to get that 100,000 views. I know, and I'm not going to name them. I've had enough episodes now that people won't know who I'm talking about. But I've had some people on the show that were not amazing guests. But the great thing is it was great relationship time for me. But if my sole purpose was to build my audience, which is what we're talking about today, then I should not have had them on my show.
Right, exactly.
And so that is an important thing to recognize when you're thinking about guest strategy. What is the key thing that you're trying to do with your show?
Yes.
What is the key reason you're inviting this person on?
Yes.
And focus on that first, and then the secondary objectives can come along later.
Yeah.
So probably if I had been thinking only about view counts, I would have probably said, I'm not sure if this is going to be the best person to be on the show.
Yep.
But they're a great person that I want to come hang out with and get to know, have a beer with, that sort of thing.
Yes.
Or maybe done a mini episode with them, or maybe done something else that wasn't the primary show. But it's just something to think about. It's make sure that you are constantly selecting your guests based on the main reason that your show exists.
Yeah.
And then go from there, because your audience will also be there for that exact same reason.
Exactly. And, so thinking about guest strategy and tying it back to our previous point about kind of promoting your podcast. So segue to that, make sure that you are, tagging them in your posts. You're doing collaboration posts on especially Instagram. Try to give them the assets. So I know a lot of people will say, hey, here's the shorts. You can use them however you want. Sometimes it's let me post them first. And I've seen multiple people, especially Chris Do, I've seen him do this where either he'll have somebody on his podcast or he'll go on another show, and whoever the guest is will actually literally post that podcast, but maybe 6 months later or something like that.
Exactly, yeah.
And so just to be able to hey, utilize your guest's network in order to promote that kind of thing. So that's just a thing to think about.
But I think it's really important to notice, both your and my shows did not grow on the back of celebrity.
It did not.
Yeah. And I think that's a really important thing to understand. And we're also really niched.
We are.
Like the network of people who are all about podcasting is decently small in the United States, and even the nation, the whole world. So the question is when you're thinking about your content and your strategy around how to get that 100,000 views, or you're trying to get your first 100 subscribers, or you're trying to get all these things, think about content that is evergreen to the person that you're talking to.
Yeah.
Whoever this target market is. But also just recognize it's going to take a lot of time, but eventually the people will find you.
Yes, exactly.
The term overnight sensation doesn't exist. We just found out about them overnight.
Yes.
They'd been there for years.
Hold on.
Practicing.
Say that again. Because
Okay.
people need to understand this point.
The term overnight sensation is not a real thing. It does not happen. What happens is we find out about them overnight. They've been doing it for years. They've been growing their audience. They've been practicing their craft. And then eventually they strike gold. They find their format. They find their content. They find their audience. And then overnight, they went from 0 to 100.
Yes. Awareness grows overnight, not the actual podcast or person or
whatever.
brand.
Yeah. So one of the biggest pop artists in the world right now, Sabrina Carpenter, I'm sure she's been doing this for years before she started to become this massive person that she is.
Exactly.
I know nothing about her.
Sure.
Other than her name.
Right.
So the thing is the same thing. This is, as we talk about, a long game.
Yeah.
100,000 views is very easily doable with a podcast.
With the right process.
With the right process. But it takes about 6 months.
Yeah.
And that's a long time.
Yep.
But then the interesting thing that you and I found is that I was at about 100,000 views with my podcast at 6 months. And then now I'm at 9 months and almost 250,000 views.
Right.
So this isn't a linear process either. No. As you go through the process, your growth curve, assuming you are continuing to follow these 3 points that we just talked about, will continue to grow exponentially to the point that you can actually start to recognize oh, wow, that last episode just had 15,000 views on it. That's crazy. What just happened?
Yes.
And you will see that happen more and more and more to the point that you'll be really surprised but incredibly grateful that you put in the work for the long haul.
Yeah, yeah. I think the evaluation and iterating of consistent content over time, it's just going to compound. But I'm going to give a practical example of how to actually maybe do this. So, because I literally did this week as a part of my review for some of my podcast episodes, is I went to vidIQ and I just asked it, hey, with my shorts, how can I improve? What can I improve? And because it's actually connected to the back end of YouTube and all of that, it actually gave me, the AI coach gave me some really good insights of things I think I need to change. And I completely agree. I was like, oh, I hadn't thought about that, but that is a valid point. That's something I can change for the future. And so if you are kind of creating your own content and you or your team is creating content for you, use something like vidIQ. If you go to vidIQ/grow your podcast, there's an affiliate link there. You can get access to vidIQ, and I tell you what, it's a surprisingly helpful tool. I underutilized it for a long time, but as I've kind of taken a deep dive into some of the features, it's been pretty helpful, and especially in the evaluation of things. So you can just plug in, and so unfortunately, vidIQ is only relevant to YouTube, so it's not going to tell you kind of the different platforms and how you can improve there. But I would say, if you're winning on YouTube, that's pretty great. It's the number 2, I don't know, with ChatGPT now and stuff, but for a long time, it's been the number 2 search engine in the world. So it's really important that you actually rank and do well there.
Well, let's put a little bit of an extra point on YouTube. So one of the interesting things that you do differently than I do about your podcast is you don't really tell people that your podcast exists on other podcasting platforms. You only really tell them that it's on YouTube.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting too, because I have told people over the 9 months I've been doing it to, hey, check it out on Spotify too.
Yep.
And the interesting thing is with all that effort over the lifetime of my time, Spotify is like my hosting platform that I send to all the other locations. All other locations, I've only had somewhere around 700 views on my podcast across all podcasting platforms. On YouTube, I have had one episode that gets 300 downloads.
Right.
So like the thing is that YouTube has a way better system for discovery
Yes.
than all these other platforms do. And so I know this is in the point of iterating and changing, but like under the idea of vidIQ, like YouTube is a huge piece of podcasting now.
Yeah.
I think especially if you're using podcasts as an awareness tool, YouTube is the platform to be on.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so while Josh is talking about this idea of vidIQ, it's actually a really valuable tool to help in the iteration process. But also, if you have not been putting your podcast on YouTube, you're not going to hit your goals.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. And I think, evaluating your podcast and making small changes, you have to know kind of what you're kind of aiming for. I remember Caleb Ralston also told me that like it's really important that whatever you track, you actually are willing to change. So, don't get a vidIQ subscription if you're not going to use it, right? Don't waste money. Sorry, vidIQ. Information, if you don't take action on it, it doesn't matter. It's just noise. And so it's just really important that you kind of go through and think through, what exactly what am I even willing to change, I guess? But like maybe start with one thing, track that, you evaluate, make changes, and then maybe start kind of playing around with another thing and just kind of I think sometimes what people can do, especially if they're just starting a podcast, there's a lot of things that they could think about. Take one and track it and then make changes. And then once you're in that cycle, then you can pick another thing. Don't do everything at once.
Mm-hmm. We had somebody in the studio today who was talking about like, I'm not sure how to do XYZ when it comes to podcasting. And like we said earlier, I just told her, hey, do your first episode, watch it back and tell yourself what could you do better and what did you actually like kill it on.
Yeah.
Get those two things and then do it again for the next episode.
Yep.
And then do it again for the next episode.
Yep.
The thing with podcasting, and even though we're saying here's your roadmap to 100,000 views, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah.
So you have to keep learning. Am I running the right way? Am I leaning too far forward, too far backwards? Am I speaking the wrong way in the podcast? Am I asking the wrong questions? Am I stepping on the guest's toes when they're saying things? All these things you're going to learn.
Yeah.
But it's only in the process of doing it.
Yeah.
So if you're listening to this podcast and you're in this space of like dreaming about the podcast, I'm going to borrow a phrase from Nike. Just do it.
Yep.
You got to just do it. You got to try. Even if it's terrible, it probably is. And that's okay because the version 2.0, the second episode, can be so much better than the first.
Yep.
And then the third will be so much better than the fourth. Or you get the idea that I'm saying.
But
like
you can't get better if you never start.
Exactly. And so we got to grow the repetition. We got to get in the work. We got to lift the weights. We got to run the track. We got to do all these things. And that's how you hit success.
Yeah.
Because I can tell you this, that you're going to get maybe a month into podcasting and you're going to look at your analytics and you may only have 5,000 views. And you're like, how do I hit 100,000? It compounds.
It does.
It grows. You keep rolling, you keep moving, and it just keeps growing and growing and growing, and you will win.
Yeah. So here I have a question for you. So let's let's give a suggestion for somebody, because I feel like sometimes it's really helpful to have prescriptive steps on things. Yeah. And we're making this up right now. So this is not gospel, but I think it could be helpful if you needed help picking a way to evaluate. Like what's a regular, my question is, what's a cadence that would be helpful? Because do I need to actually go through and evaluate every single podcast, or do I do the first 1, 2, 3, and then episode 10, and then episode 20? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What would you just like off the cuff recommend?
I'm a bit of a gut feel guy. Mm-hmm. And so when I very first started the podcast, my podcast, I listened to the first one. I might have listened to the second one. And then from that moment on, I was in the space where I was trying to actively listen to my own feelings at the end of a podcast. Because I think one of those moments, especially when you're early in your podcasting journey, there's a lot of adrenaline. There's a lot of fun that can be had in these moments. It's so fun.
Yep.
It really is, especially for chatterboxes like you and I. And so what I love to tell people is like, if you can hit a point where you do some of the classic research and evaluate and figure out what's going on first couple episodes, then just listen to your gut. At that point, your gut most likely is going to steer you in a good direction. Yeah. Because I can hit the end of an episode and I can be like, man, I didn't do that the way I wanted to. Or I should have followed up in this moment. I should have pressed in this moment. I shouldn't have spoken in this moment. I should have listened. And then I just know I can do it better next time.
Yeah.
So I think, maybe there is a good time. And I know that you do it a little bit differently. So I'm maybe curious your perspective on it too. But like, maybe, you hit episode 10, then go back and review a little bit and see like, hey, where did the analytics show you that you did good and bad?
Yeah.
Maybe look at the bad one and understand what you could do better from that one.
Yep.
Or the good one and learn what you can do good from in that space.
Yep.
But generally, I'm of the opinion that there is a little bit of a gut instinct that after you do it enough, you'll start to be like, oh yeah, that one was awesome.
Yep.
That one was great.
Yep.
I loved that. I could have done X, Y, Z better, but oh yes.
Yes.
That was a winner. And you and I do the same thing. Even after every recording we do, we're like, oh, that was a good one.
Right.
That was awesome.
Yes.
Like that one's going to do great. People are going to love this episode.
Yeah.
But what would you recommend if you were in that space?
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like it's a little bit of a hybrid between like specific numbers and gut check. So specific numbers, I'd say, the first 3 episodes you should maybe rewatch and just evaluate.
Watch, not just listen.
Yeah.
Because I missed at the beginning of my podcast, I kept putting my hand in front of my face and you couldn't see it.
Right.
And like, I didn't realize that until you said like, hey, you're putting your hand in front of your face.
Right. Exactly.
Right. Thank you.
Yes. So watch it back and even just see like, are you giving eye contact? Like, especially if you have a guest, it might be important to just see like what your body language is and all that. So watch the first 3 episodes, and then part of me is like, say like every 10 or 12 episodes, kind of do like a big picture evaluation. So use something like vidIQ or whatever to just kind of give some tactical information. Maybe even ask your audience. So especially if you have any friends who are your audience, you can kind of trust to give you some feedback. Or if you're working with like a studio like ours, we can help give you feedback. We can help you evaluate some of the things. But yeah, I would say like as a like numbered rhythm, first 3, and then every 10 or 12, kind of do a big picture. But then also, pay attention to the gut check. Or if you have somebody who's recording you in a studio like ours or whatever, ask them, hey, how'd you think that went? Because I know some people, they just like, I seriously, my how in tune I am with my gut isn't as great as it needs to be, right? So to have a third party perspective, like, oh, you know what? Actually, it was pretty good. I really liked this, this, and this. Here's the one thing that was probably off. That can also be, having a third party perspective can also help you with over critiquing. There's been times where I've been like, oh man, this was really bad. Like I just, maybe I didn't feel on my game or whatever. And then, you know, you're like, no, it was fine. It was good. And then there's some times where I'm like, I feel like this was bad. Was it bad? And you're like, yeah, that wasn't amazing.
Yeah.
And so it's just really helpful to have somebody to bounce that kind of stuff off of.
And if you're anything like me, you generally just want to know all the negative things so you can fix them. So it's really important that if you go to a third person, say, what did I do good? What did I do bad?
Exactly.
And just ask for one thing each time.
Yes.
Like, what did I do good? What did I do bad?
Yep.
That's it.
Yep. Just a little better each time.
Yes. There is nothing, you're not trying to get 10% increases. You're trying to get 1% increases. Yep. And the more you get those 1% increases, the more it compounds and the more you win.
Exactly. Dude, this is awesome. Again, you know, it's really important if you're wanting to get to 100,000 views in 6 months, which is kind of the thing that we're saying you can do. That's a minimum that you could do. Be sure to have a consistent rhythm, make sure you're promoting on all the places, and make sure you evaluate and iterate. And if you have an idea that you just kind of want to test and see, is this idea any good? Go to CincinnatiPodcastStudio.com/fit, and you'll be able to see, hey, based off of this idea, you type in your name, your email address, and just a few sentences about what your podcast is. It will spit back a report in about 10 minutes of how great your podcast might actually be. What are the ways you can differentiate yourself, and give you episode ideas as well. And you can kind of take that and see like, oh, maybe this is dope. Maybe I should actually pursue this.
What we're trying to do is give you a tool that allows you to see if you can fit with the audience that you're going after.
Exactly.
And so that's why it's CincinnatiPodcastStudio.com/fit. We built this tool just for you. We're spending money on it and not charging you anything. So our hope is that it builds into you and your podcast, and then eventually helps you get to a point where you can come back to us and say, actually, you can get 200,000 views in 6 months.
Hey, if you're getting any value out of this conversation, would you please like, subscribe, rate, review, share this video, do all the things, and get the word out about this podcast. We are really trying to help podcasters like you, brand builders like you, use video podcasts in the best way possible. Thank you so much for your time, attention, and trust, and we will see you next time.